It's about the restoration of our republic. We want to educate, encourage, enable the power. We stand for integrity, honesty, self-reliance, self-defense, and most importantly, no compromise on our foundational principles. This is America's Voice Now.
Find America's Voice Now on Facebook and at americasvoicenow.org. Here's Michael Evans.
Good morning, America. You're listening to America's Voice Now. My name is Michael Evans. I'm your host this morning, and you're joining us in our third out of four segments. Thanks for riding with us today. It's TGIF. That would mean, thank goodness, it's Friday. And I say that because, well, it's been a harrowing week. The World Bank, I should say, not the World Food Bank, because there is no World Food Bank. We were it, and we're now bankrupt, so there is no World Food Bank. But the World Bank is sounding the alarm on rising global food prices. Did you hear what I just said? They're raising the alarm on rising global food prices. But your government and your Federal Reserve, the traitorous bankers who are, have been leeching and sucking America dry of its financial blood for 102 years now, they're telling you that inflation is a myth. Just ask anyone in government. They'll tell you that your wallet is a liar. Isn't that interesting? Why is it that we're always told, don't believe the obvious truth right in front of you that has empirical proof all around it? And yet we're told to believe stuff like manufactured, justified, commissioned science. Science by people who aren't really motivated by what I used to construe as science, which was, people interested in getting to the truth for discovery's sake, right? I mean, yeah, there's, they get a crown at the end, and they're titled as the greatest scientist, and their name goes down in the history books along the lines of Pasteur and, so forth and so on, right? That was what I thought of scientists. Now, perhaps I was naive, but this day and age, it's all about how do I get the grant money, and what do you want the science report to look like? That's basically the question. These are hired guns now. Science is no longer science. It's now a question of utilizing your degree as a hired gun. I mean, it's no different than in the days of the Old West, when you called in the gunfighter who came in and he pulled back the sou'wester and he pow, 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 pow. That's all that science is today, folks. There is no true science. The FDA buys the science that's given to them by the drug manufacturer who tells you it's perfectly safe. Only later on do we find out that your kidneys now look like Swiss cheese. Only later on do we find out that the antidepressant drug that they've been telling you is 100% safe and inserting in minute amounts throughout all kinds of other drugs that you didn't think were dangerous and didn't even contain that stuff, rewires your physical brain, the way in which you biologically think. Hello, and we have no idea what that is. We're just, experimenting on millions upon hundreds of millions of people. It's insane. The whole world is upside down. The police state's in full-blown operation. There was an article out there on fusion.net this morning. This one will blow you away. In Miami Gardens, the police were doing this, this stop and frisk type thing. And they were so blatant about it. They said, we want every person that you see who's black between the ages of 15 and 50 checked and roust them, right? What we used to call rousting, right? The cops would walk up and say, all right, let me see your ID. What are you doing here? Where are you going? Where are you coming from? Why are you here? You're loitering, right? They did this so many times, folks, that they did it 8,489 times to kids. 1,775 senior citizens were caught up in this stop and frisk thing in just one city alone. Between 2008 and 2013, the police made 99,980. That's just 20 numbers short of 100,000, right? They made that many stops, 100,000 stops in the Miami Gardens area. There were 1,000 people that were stopped more than 10 times, and there were more than 1,000 people who were over 70 years old stopped. 250 of those people were stopped more than 20 times. 27 of those people were stopped more than 50 times. And here's the problem. There aren't that many people who live in that whole community. It is a police state. And it's everywhere around us. Miami City, their police department, with a population of more than 400,000 people, only made 3,700 stops in the same period. 37 as opposed to 100,000. 3,700 as opposed to 100,000. There was one guy, wait till you hear this. His name is Earl Sampson, and he works at a local convenience store. They've stopped this guy over 200 times, one individual. They arrest him every time they see him. He was sleeping. The store owner was so concerned about how many times this guy had been stopped and pulled off of the property for loitering and arrested, he gave him an apartment in the back of the store. Said, look, don't even go out, because as soon as you walk outside the door, they're on you. They came in the store, went into the guy's bedroom, and arrested him for loitering. He protested. He said, I work here. The owner said, he works here. They said, we don't care. What? That's police work? You see, there are only, and you have to understand this, there's only some 32,000 or 30,000 people who live in Miami Gardens. 30,000 people. And they've stopped people in between 2008 and 2013 100,000 times. Is everybody a criminal? It wouldn't appear so if you look at the immigration issue, because Department of Homeland Security is now actually taking the immigrants who are pouring over the border at the rate of between 1,500 and 2,000 a day, and they're actually putting them on a plane. Wait till you hear this. And they're flying them to Texas from Tucson. I'm sorry, from Texas to Tucson. And then they're just releasing them at a Greyhound bus station. So hold on a minute. Let's understand the true dichotomy of this, because it's so deep, it makes that Deepwater trench where Flight MH370 was supposed to have gone down look like a shallow pond, right? Let's understand what we're talking about here. You've got thousands and thousands and thousands of people who are pouring across our border illegally. We know that they're illegals. We don't actually send them back over. Instead, we put them on a plane and we fly them from one state to another state, and then we bring them in, we fingerprint them or whatever the heck we do. We ask their name, which is probably not even their real name, and they got no birth certificate papers to prove it, and then we just cut them loose at a bus station. Meanwhile, in Florida, we're stopping and frisking every citizen of a city, 5 times? Hello? Meanwhile, they're building a database on every American, 227 million of them. That's pretty much everybody who's here legally and above the age of 18. And you're wondering whether there's really a police state that exists. The argument and the reports out from the Washington Examiner are, we are in crisis. The number of young illegal immigrants pouring over the U.S. border is, quote, unprecedented. Remember that word unprecedented? This is the one that Obama uses for everything. It's unprecedented. I'm unprecedented. Everything that I do is unprecedented. When I take a poop in the morning, it's unprecedented because no president has ever taken a poop like me. I'm unprecedented. Here's the problem. It's gotten so bad on the border, ladies and gentlemen, that they are now allowing children with no adult supervision to pass over the border. And they're collecting them whole and putting them in holding pens, contacting some relative or family member in the United States, hopefully, and then handing the kid off to them. And all under the Dreamers Act. And that's why the number of kids has gone from a few thousand a year to 60,000, and we're not even in June. They estimated the number would be 60,000 this year for the whole of 2014. Well, guess what? This report came out on May 15th. Let's just call it that. That's only 5.5 months into a 12-month window, and we've already passed 60,000. Parents are giving their 6-month-old, 3-year-old to total stranger coyotes and dragging them up over there all the way from wherever they're coming from, Guatemala, Venezuela, Bolivia, Colombia, pouring their families, their children, into the hands of strangers and saying, here, take my child, bring him up there to the Mexican border, cross over the Rio Grande River, and then just hand the kid to the authorities. Because under the Dreamer Act, they're going to get amnesty. And I'll find them later. The U.S. authorities report there was a massive surge in May of children trying to escape crime, drug gangs, and sexual exploitation in Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador. And it led them to cast aside the administration's prediction of 60,000, which is still more than twice the number of 24,000 apprehended last year. Now, the year before that, by the way, the number has been doubling every year, because the year before that, it was actually more than doubled. The year before that, it was only 6,000. Then it was 24,000. Then the estimate was 60,000, and we've already blown past the 60,000 number. And it's only May. Ann Wilson, the executive vice president for Lutheran Immigration and Refugee Service, says it's a city of children. There's 100,000 kids on their feet walking out of their countries. And they're all pouring over the borders here, and they're coming here because Obama and Biden and the traitors at DHS and border security have said, we're not going to deport anybody. Amnesty is wide open. It's guaranteed to happen by July. And even if it doesn't happen under the Dreamers program, we're not sending anybody back. So don't worry about it. Send us your young. Send us your vulnerable. Send us the ones that can't defend themselves. And we'll take them all in. Doesn't matter what the law says. And I'm all okay with being a valuable aspect of the global community of charity to help people out. But what you're doing is you're subverting the entire fabric of the United States of America. And you're doing it in open, blatant, brazen violation of the constitutional prohibition and the requirement that the federal government only has one of a very limited number of duties. And that one of those duties is to protect the borders. And when Arizona tried to protect their own border and said, well, apparently the federal government's not going to do it, so we're going to do it, they got sued. I get it. These people are leaving deplorable conditions. But we didn't make those conditions, and it's not our to allow them to just pour over our border and listen, it's dangerous for them. Even if they make it here unmolested, unenslaved, unrobbed, unsexually molested, which is doubtful. Even if they make it to the border and the coyote has enough, whatever you want to call it, integrity to get them over the border safely, then they're abandoned here with all of our wolves. Don't tell me we don't have predators here. How is that helping them? See, the real issue here is that they're using a flood of illegal immigrants to do the fundamental transformation and change that Obama promised us we were going to get. He did promise we were going to get fundamental change. 3 days after his statement. We are 3 days away from fundamentally changing the United States of America. That's what he said. That's what he meant. And it's what's happening. And if you are ignoring the realities of that, gee whiz, folks. It's not your country anymore. You see, you can vote. They can't even vote, but guess what? They've got more power than you do because they stand out there and they chain themselves to a fence and they go out there and they sit in a congressman's office that you'd get arrested for sitting there. And for some reason or another, the congressman bends over and says, "We're not worthy. We'll do whatever you want. Go ahead, please." What is up with that? How is it that we, the people who are paying for it all, the people who are supposed to be allegedly represented by these people, the people who are supposed to have some say in what's happening to us, have no say, and people who have no skin in the game, no real reason to be here, no authorization to be here, no skills or benefits to add to the overall pot, if you will, and they have more say than we have. It's beyond comprehension. The DHS chief, Jay Johnson, he says, we got to stop the Secure Communities program. Secure Communities says everybody who's arrested's got to get fingerprinted, and then they run it through a database to see if they're legal. And if they are, they're supposed to be held until they can be bounced off the border. They're not. They've just shortened the time frame from 3 years to being from 3 years to 15 days. In other words, they're shortening the time, the statute of limitations. If you are more than 15 days here in the United States, free pass. Free pass. Well, you're seasoned. Seasoned? What are we, a bunch of iron kettles? What do you mean we're seasoned? You're here for 15 days and suddenly you're a seasoned violator of the law. And that's reason not to prosecute or eject. I don't want to prosecute it. Just kick them back over the border. You got Obama promising to bring everybody back home from Afghanistan. Then when his department goes out there and outs their own CIA guy, which was an absolute, rookie level mistake. Then, to make matters even worse, he says he withdraws his statement that we're going to pull completely out of Afghanistan, and to try to cover it up with some other news so that the press doesn't beat him up too hard on that one, he says, well, we're going to just keep 9,800 here. Okay, let's just go with those numbers for a moment. That means that thousands and thousands more Americans who are battle-hardened are coming home. Great, let's place them all on the border and line them up, locked elbows, and say, nobody gets in here, no how! And give him the order. Nobody crosses that border. Stack them 2 deep. Stack them 3 deep. I don't care. Stack them up like a phalanx of the 300 with shields. And lock down that border. I don't want to be uncompassionate, but I don't want to be a damn fool either. We can be compassionate, but on our terms. Charity is not saying, guess what? Anybody who wants can come live in my house, eat my food, take my stuff, and wipe out my bank account. Anybody who wants, as long as you're homeless. How? Why would you do that? How long will you last? A week? Then what? So isn't it wiser to say, I'm going to apportion a percentage of what I have, and I'm going to help out others who are less fortunate than myself? And I'm going to do it willingly. And if enough of us do that, the problem will be solved. Now, imagine, let's take the first scenario and say, now government's doing that to you at the point of a gun and saying, we're not asking you, we're telling you, you're out. We're going to leave your house wide open. We're going to let your refrigerator be raided. We're going to leave your bank account exposed. We're going to let whoever wants to take your car and your clothes and your jewelry and your home. And you ain't got no say about it. Now get out. Explain the justice in that. That's not social justice. That's fascism. That's tyranny. It's a monster. Raping, pillaging, killing its own people, its own nation. There's not enough justification that Jay Johnson and Barack Obama and Luis Gutierrez can give us. This is indefensible and inexcusable, and they all know it. And the problem is that even if we were to take, let's assume tomorrow morning the president says, you know what, I'm resigning, that's it. There's a brand new guy in place. He's going to be a constitutional president, or she's going to be a constitutional president, and all's going to go back to right with the Constitution. Guess what? The damage is undoable. We can't take it back. We can't move them out. We can't collect them all. How are we going to do it? Find them. You've been listening to America's Voice Now. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to look at Operation Choke Point. This is where they're labeling gun sellers as a dangerous item, like as if you were selling explosives or as if you were selling a dangerous drug. And they are doing nothing other than rescinding the Second Amendment by a backdoor method. And it's an act of flippin' treason, America. And your banks, they're all playing part of it. You can support this program and the radio station that we do and the voice that we put out there every day to awaken and alert America. You can do that by going to patronizing our sponsors, like Battery Station. You can go to them. It's at batterystation.com. They support this program and make sure it stays on the air. Batterystation.com, or you can call them at 417-257-7799. They have batteries and flashlights, and then they've got literally thousands of other products that aren't even all of them up on their website. But they've got all kinds of stuff up there. Get over there and visit them, batterystation.com. Our friends over at Pizza Hut. At Pizza Hut, here especially in West Plains on Porter Wagoner Boulevard, these guys stand up and support this program every day. And I would appreciate it if you would support them. If you're in the West Plains area, go in there on Tuesdays and Thursdays for a reduced price lunch. And then on Tuesday evening, bring the family because it's family night and kids under 12 eat free. Last but not least, AmericanResumeService.com. AmericanResumeService.com. 417-264-2486. You can also contact them by email at info@AmericanResumeService.com. They've got a special program where you get a $200 resume for $100, and then they take that $100 and hand it right over to America's Voice Now to keep us on the air. If you need a new resume, that's the way to get it. We'll be right back.